Yeah, so briefly, you've been on a canal tour, and how did you find it?
Well, we did a 7-day tour on a boat with 2 other people, friends, and we spent 7 days on the canal, and some of the scenery and the general peacefulness of the whole experience was great.
The scenery was beautiful, actually.
However, there are a few problems that I think that people need to be aware of when they go on these trips. The one we did anyway is that although we were totally in command of the boat and our own movements, we didn't know we had to face 64 locks from Béziers through to Castelnaudary, excuse the expression, the pronunciation. But and going into a lock is quite stressful, and if you do it 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 times, that's okay. But 64 times in 7 days, sometimes, you know, on average, a lot more than just the 8 or 10.
Well, there was one lock. There was actually 9 locks.
9 locks in one particular
one
area.
hit.
And it's very dramatic and fantastic, but it's really can be quite stressful. However, we, after several days, worked into a routine and made it quite workable.
By the end of the 64 locks, we got it right.
And the other thing is that when you're on a boat with other people, you have to realise that you're not just going downstairs and reading your book and sleeping and relaxing, because you sort of share the responsibility.
So you feel guilty if you actually go downstairs. You really have to be up top, supporting each other.
There are probably other canal trips where you have a commercial operator who runs the boat, provides a skipper, provides the food, gets a bus at certain little parts along the way and takes you into a little town. That's different, totally different sort of trip. But if you're doing your own, just be aware it's not as romantic or as attractive as you might think.
Because when you do stop for lunch, naturally everything's shut.
Or that the particular little village that you manage to get near to is inaccessible because it's too far in, or as Tricia just said, it's shut, and we found a great absence of people.
And you mentioned about the ropes?
Yeah, the rope thing was fairly interesting because you have to throw ropes up a fairly... We went upstream, perhaps next time we'd go downstream. And when the rope falls into the water, all of a sudden as you pull it in with your bare hands, you realise that that's the same water that not that long ago you were using the toilet, and there's no holding tanks on the boat.
Plus all 100 other boats that flush.
So you've got a funny feeling that rope's been mixing with things other than what you would like it to be mixing with. So when you pull the rope and you get to before the next lock, you make sure you wash your hands, because you're not quite sure what's been floating down there.
And to see people fishing, my God.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of locals are fishing, and you can't imagine that they would be prepared to eat that fish.
Yeah. And
smelt,
you said something about a strike?
Yeah. Well, for some reason, Sundays the lock keepers don't work, so you don't know that you've perhaps built that into your schedule to lose a day. But then on top of that, when they call a strike on a Monday, which goes into a Tuesday, and you have to have the boat back by a certain time, and then in time also to catch your train or your plane to the next destination, yeah, that can be a problem. But that's not typical, but that happened to us, and yet, yeah, we had a great time.
We had a lot of fun,
and
we'll never forget it.
But however, I think I would always advise people, before you go and do a canal trip.
Yeah. And now you've come to Uzès and you're staying in La Résidence, and how do you find Uzès?
Well, Uzès has been...
it's been such a relief.
Uzès has been a great surprise because after having spent some time in Toulouse and Nîmes, Uzès just seems a little miracle town. It's so well presented, it's so authentic, clean, it just drips of antiquity and the old medieval times. And the people are so polite, and just cars stop for you, and it's not just a tourism thing, it's a sort of something that there's a sense of community.
And they're proud of their town.
They're proud of their town, and the shopkeepers appreciate that they have to put up with tourists, but it's done gently, and we have probably had one of our best holidays ever, and we've done quite a lot of travel around the world. But Uzès to us has been a little magic place, and we have just loved being in the residence.
Yes.
It was much higher standard than we thought in terms of accommodation, and we've just had a wonderful, wonderful time. in Uzès.
Yeah, thank you.